Kenyan novelist, playwright, champion for African languages, Ngugi wa Thiong'o. He's died at the age of 87. His family announced his death in Atlanta in the US. Now, his literary works included Weep Not Child, and, of course, Wizard of the Crow, delved into Kenya's complex past and emphasized the significance of African narratives. He was imprisoned and exiled, was recognized as a potential Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Daniel Kijo, of course, covered that story for us. Right, so we're going to continue to pay a tribute to the giant, the literary giant that, of course, passed away. Professor Pitika Ntuli is going to be joining us for that. Prof, a very good morning, and thank you for making time. I know that it is a somber time for you. You were friends, you know, and obviously you mentioned that you spoke quite regularly. I dare ask how you're feeling at this point, but talk to us about the impact that your friend and this literary giant has had for you and the world at large.
He was a very, very remarkable person. The first and foremost, he was a very humble person who dearly loved children, very supportive. We met in the late 70s. I exiled from South Africa, and he, by Daniel Arab in Moi. And from then onwards, up to here, when I was setting up my exhibition called Asbuyele Emasisweni in 2021, that won the Global Finance Award. He's the first person I approached who did a foreword, for for the book.
Yeah.
We've been on many platforms, together. And he's also one of the first people to congratulate me when the Tshwane University of Technology last year conferred a doctorate of language practice, on me. So he was a person who wanted us to decolonize our minds as African people rather than being clones of somebody else.
Well, Prof. Pitika, thank you for those opening remarks. I wonder if you could, reminisce on when last you spoke to him. What would your last sentiments to Ngugi have been? Tell us a little bit more about the nature of your relationship.
The last time we spoke, the night, in fact, just before he died, he said to me, I wasn't, clever enough. The colonialists have already taken over my mind. I said, why? He said to me, spell imperialism. I said, I-M-P-E. He said, stop there. You made a big mistake. It's I-M-P-I, which in Zulu means impi. Yeah. So it is impi really, as if that's what we were laughing with him about, that a single syllable can change meaning. Now, if a single syllable can change meaning, how much can language stolen from you ruin yourself and make your life meaningless?
Yeah. Well, Prof, thank you for sharing that personal anecdote. I know it's not an easy time, and one can't even imagine the state you're in. I know that as you and family or friends alike, of course, continue to mourn his death, we really just look at, the impact that he's had, his approach to literature, that evolution as he evolved as well. Tell us a little bit more about that, but even to the point of, agency as a people and really the contribution of African literature and culture to the story of the world.
Yes. What Ngugi was doing was also involved very deeply into the decolonial project. But decolonizing the language, therefore, frees us to think better and act in manners that are not expected by those who control us. Yeah. And it's just one person who will go from community to community. He was with us during the anti-apartheid struggles on a number of platforms where we needed him. He was always, on that side because he felt it also, yes, very personally. So he's very much against, people who are very eloquent in other languages, but they do not actually speak their language. He's been annoyed with me that I must published my poems in 7 of the languages of South Africa that I'm able to communicate with. And also my dedication to him on the number of poems I've been writing since his own passing are bilingual.
Well, Prof, yes, do continue.
No, I'm just getting back to this point again, which is so very important to me, is that at about, say, 10, 11 at night here, our time,
Yes.
that's when we start speaking. The night the night after he passed, I was getting into my bed and I was just switching up the light. When I was switching up the light, I reached for my phone because I was feeling sad to contact, him to console me about his own passing, his own, death. That's how the impact of his death is, to me. Also remember, mostly when my wife, him and his son were in Lake Fundudzi in Venda. He was standing in front of Lake Fundudzi. He said, if Lake Fundudzi in Africa is so powerful, I would lift up my hands. And when I lift up my hands, many African people will stop writing in English. They're writing their languages. We were just laughing. It's just full of fun with him.
Well, Prof, thank you for sharing that personal anecdote once again. I know that there has been that call to action from him timelessly and continuously in your relationship and perhaps even the work that you've collaborated on. And if you look at how, adamant he was about using Afrocentric approaches and really delving into the use of home languages as well. I wonder if you could speak to how his work would have also then influenced you, if you're now remembering the loss that obviously comes as a result of, his passing. He was part of your daily routine. What are some of those poems and themes that you highlight that really speak to his life and impact on you?
Now, let me read you one poem.
Thank you.
Entangled with Ngugi, when the one I grieve holds my hand. I reach for your absence and find your presence waiting like a pulse in my palm. Ngugi, they said you died, but quantum teaches me otherwise. You are in superposition, both gone and here, both voice and echo, both silence and the language that defies it. You hold my hand, not in flesh, but in frequency. We are entangled, my grief and your spirit, longing and your return. In the marrow of my mourning, your laughter stirs the dust of exiled tongues. I weep and feel your fingers tighten around mine like a griot guarding his last parable. Is this memory? Is this madness? Or is it the truth of entanglement that no distance undoes the sacred link between minds that once dreamed together? You died, yet I write, and your syntax still sings. You departed, but your footsteps walk in the grooves of your rebellion. Ngugi, you are a waveform in my chest, a sentence not yet collapsed, a story both told and still unfolding.
Thank you, Prof. The next chapter continues for him in his transition. And thank you for sharing such a personal, heartfelt, poem about your friend. I wonder, as we even just look at the challenges that he would have had to also overcome, challenging the socio-political constructs and just the status quo at large. What are some of those biggest challenges and inertia that he would have had to overcome, both within himself and in relation to society at large?
Yeah. I think mostly what concerned him and concerns all of us is the issue of coloniality. That we are colonized, we decolonize, but coloniality is. We speak about the situation here, for instance, in South Africa. He is not well celebrated in his own country. They just do not recognize what he does. And then he says, you and I are absolutely the same. Because our essence is being truly African is a very challenging thing, even amongst those people whose minds are still caught up in the Western narrative. He is also very pleased that people like the president of Burkina Faso, Traore, is emerging. Many more young African leaders who are defying the former colonial masters and wanting to speak into their own voice, politically, ideologically, spiritually, in every other way that makes African people proud to be who we are.
Well, Prof, the Burkina Faso leader, as a case in point, is obviously following in the footsteps of Thomas Sankara. And we're looking at that resurgence, obviously, in affirming our agency and identity and asserting that into, the world and really what it means for us at large. Prof, I'm going to leave the conversation there. We send our sincere condolences to you, family, friends alike. Thank you for being so vulnerable and for sharing, your favorite stories. That poem, obviously, echoing your grief and loss at this hour. We're wishing you strength at this time, but thank you for weighing in on your friend, Professor Pitika Ntuli, this morning, chatting about the passing of Kenyan literary giant Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Of course, again, him just reminiscing on the Kenyan novelist, playwright, champion for African languages, and just also, the deconstruction of decoloniality that he so passionately advocated for.